The High Court in Johannesburg has dismissed the application of the DA to interdict the EFF's planned shutdown for Monday. However, the court judgment does ban or interdict any unlawful behavior on Monday. To discuss, we're joined by legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala. Thanks for being with us as always, Mr. Zikalala. Even though the DA didn't get what it wanted, it has welcomed this interdict, saying it will strengthen law enforcement. It's a victory for law and order. But why do we need an interdict? If somebody's breaking the law, surely anybody in law enforcement can act just on that basis.
I think the court was trading carefully in terms of saying we want to err on the side of legality. We can't interdict something that we're not really sure whether it's going to be unlawful or not, or that has not occurred. There may be a reasonable belief that the imminent harm is going to be suffered at a later stage. But on the basis of the papers that were submitted, for sure the court came to the conclusion that it's not enough information to arrive at an interdict that can be issued. Now, however, if you look at how the other conditions are then written in, it is basically, in fact, an interdict. Because what does it tell you vis-a-vis the nature of strike actions that or protest actions that will be taking place on Monday? You can't have access to a public road. You can't close schools. You can't close businesses. You can't cause disruptions. You can't send messages, or you are told to send messages to those involved that if you engage in this type of activities, you are going to be arrested. But most importantly, the words that are explicit in that order that says that if you engage in an unprotected or illegal protest action, you are going to be prosecuted. Now, what's going to happen on Monday is an illegal protest action if the required permissions or permits as per the Gatherings Act have not been obtained by the EFF. So indirectly or inherently, an order was issued, an interdict was issued, because if you look at how this particular order is going to be applied, it basically says to the EFF, the only way in which you can be able to protest on Monday is by telling people not to go to work and staying at home.
All right, because let's be clear. So if you want to demonstrate on a certain road, you have to apply for permission. Tell us exactly what the law says. What if you just want to stand on a street corner? A few of you outline what is illegal in South Africa right now.
The minute you say a few individuals are standing in one common cause of saying that you want to demonstrate, the law is very clear as per the Gatherings Act. It says that you have to get a permit from your local police station that says you are allowed to engage on that particular street, for example. Now, that is important because what it does, it serves as a planning tool, both from the side of the SABC and other law enforcement agencies. And it says to them, on the 28th of March, a protest action is going to take place, for example, if you are here in Durban, from Bria Road up until you get to the Durban City Hall. So you have to make sure that you have proper and enough police personnel. Other medical officers have got to be there from the side of you as the protesters. You must make sure that you have enough marshals that can be perfectly identified, state the time in which you are going to engage in. So, yes, it is a planned disruption, which is something which is fulfilling or is able to fulfill your rights for the Constitution, but it isn't done in a manner so that at the end of the day you are able to prevent any looters that can take place, any destruction of property. And it serves to say, if there's anything wrong that takes place, you must know that you are responsible. Yeah. Now, in this case, what the order says, it says, well, you can engage in any type of action that you want to engage in, but the perfect way of saying it without saying it is that it must be a stay away and do not go into any public road or engage in any protest action, as we know how protest actions are usually are.
Yeah. This is interesting because I put it to the EFF yesterday. They're not applying for permissions. Nobody knows where the protest action will take place. We don't even know where the EFF leader will be. The deputy president said, well, it's their constitutional right to protest. Even Nat Jones, the deputy police commissioner, was saying we do not infringe on anybody's right to protest, but they cannot block access to other people on roads, etc., trying to go to work. But you're saying the law goes even further. If permission is not granted, any sort of action on Monday will be illegal. In fact, anybody taking part in this demonstration could face arrest. Is that clear?
Definitely, but to be more concise, you can face action for contravening the Gatherings Act. So if you don't have a proper plan or permission to go and engage in that part of gathering, the Gatherings Act is very clear. If you do anything which is contrary to what the Gatherings Act says, or if you engage in action without the proper permits having been obtained, or information or the agreement or consent that has been given by the South African Police Service, you are engaging in an illegal act, and the police can act upon that. Now, whether the police are going to act upon those particular protesters or not is going to depend on their capacity. Do they want a situation where they're able to curtail and not cause any destruction or any loss of life or damage to property? Or are they going to say we're only going to intervene where there's damage to property or things are starting to get out of hand so that we're able to preserve law and order? And to those individuals that you can be able to get, then we're going to prosecute. But there's nothing stopping the police at the end of the day of saying, we are now going to target what we would call the instigators or the planners of this march. We may not have arrested the foot soldiers that participated in the protest, but the people that were planning certainly have contravened the Gatherings Act. So at a later stage, after the occurrence of the events, then you can come on the 21st and say, let's start our action in terms of arresting members that were intimately involved in the planning of the protest action. But the law is very clear. Yes, we do have a right to protest, but it must be done within the limits of the law. Even Section 36 of our Constitution, which provides the limitation of those rights, is very clear. And part of those limitations is the Gatherings Act that says, yes, you can go and protest, but make sure that you have received and been given the adequate permits so that your protest action is legal and it is above board.
Before you go, the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, has been careful, I would think, if you listen to the language, not to promote any form of illegal violence or sabotage or anything like that. But he did say, well, the roads will be blocked. The judgment now says he can't promote, instigate or organize the blocking of roads, for example. So what do you think of that language? He's not saying go and block the roads, but he's just telling businesses and people trying to move around, well, I'm sorry, but usually the roads are blocked.
That's why this order is very significant, because in fact what it does is interdict those type of utterances from being made, especially from the leadership of the EFF. Yeah. And if you
even if he's not saying go and protest on the roads, and he's just saying, well, it's going to be blocked. Do you see it's how he's phrasing it?
Definitely, it can be viewed as part of instigating, of saying that indirectly you are telling members that the roads are going to be blocked. You are mobilizing or inciting people to go and block roads, when the order is very clear that you can't go and block public roads. So the interdict was granted. That's the crux of it at the end of the day. It may have been that the matter was dismissed, but those additional sort of directive that says to the EFF, this is what you cannot do. That is basically an order or an interdict that has been granted against them. And the manner in which protests are done, as stated earlier, unless if we wake up on Monday and people are saying we are engaging in a stay away, no one is going to go to town, no one's going to leave their houses, and we are going to stay and remain here. That's the only lawful part of protest action or shutdown that can take place. But the minute you go on a public road, the minute there are any sort of messages which are going to pass around, any messages that are going to come specifically from the leadership of the EFF, the police or law enforcement agencies can view it as saying, you have broken this particular court order, so the Democratic Alliance can go back to court and say you have been in contempt of the court order. And the Gatherings Act may start to apply if on Monday there are individuals who are going to be on the road without the required or valid permits. And to make it easier to prosecute, the police are going to say, we're not going to arrest every single person that we find on the road, but we are going to arrest the planners, which the Gatherings Act allows it, and say to them, we are arresting you for contravening the provisions of the Gatherings Act, and you are going to be accountable for any actions or any damages that have taken place on that day.
All right, thank you so much. Legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala, ahead of Monday's planned shutdown.